Thank you very much, Mina. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm going to start with a bit of a different spin to the talks that we've had today. We've had most of the talks by ambassadors and people in public posts and practitioners. So what we did when CGSS asked us to talk on the topic, I went into heavy research because on the NUST think tank, we didn't have SCO as an agenda item. So we really had to do a lot of deep research to find out where Pakistan was at why we joined the SEO and what was the mandate given and how we can deliver on it. So some terminologies, some basic facts I'm going to share, and Ambassador Jilani shared the geo-strategic, which we combined with the geopolitical along with the geo-economic. So very important to understand, where does this really, you're joining a new club, is it really going to be beneficial, or some people as adversely as putting CPAC, it's hindering Pakistan's progress financially as opposed to providing it as a game changer. So SCO is going to be a game changer, and you'll see so many organizations structured around this. With that, I'll just go into my slides, Finas. Just the slide change. Changes, right? The slide. Sorry. मिल गया फ्लोर पे था So for geo-economics, very important to have our terminology right. So what is Pakistan's interest in this? And I'm very happy to hear Ambassador Jilani clearly spelling out the main objective was peace and prosperity. And then he said there was a second very important underlying pinning, that was the economic aspect. And of course, on it, in the third, he mentioned, of course, the connectivity idea has not been sold well, but Pakistan being used as a hub of connectivity for the region, whether One Belt, One Road, BRIC. So for Pakistan, if we look at geostrategic and geopolitical, your concentration on using economic instruments to promote, defend national interest and beneficial geopolitical results. And we talked in the earlier the earlier session in the morning about what just happened in Paris at the meeting. So, and we were asking what did SCO do about it? Well, we just joined SCO, so SCO cannot actually do anything about it. And geoeconomics aligned with geopolitical. In other words, geoeconomic consists of utilizing economic instruments to achieve geopolitical objectives in defense or services of national interests. This brings about the question which you'll always ask, what is Pakistan's national interest? Do we have a document? And again, we had to do a lot of research. No, we don't. So we took a crack at it, and CGSS feels the same way, and PIDE and Jinnah Institute, all think tanks basically have a great vision of Pakistan, driving it from Jinnah's vision and tweaking it a bit. So theoretically, you have a national interest, right? You want to be a prosperous country, you want to have a free society, Islamic social welfare state, and all those are very good ideas. And how this will lead up to the geo-economic interests and Pakistan's role in SCO. So what we did was, I'm going to skip this because Ambassador Jilani talked about the geo-strategic. It involves the geopolitical. The bad news is I had 55 slides. The good news is I'm only going to do 20. So, because it's the last presentation. So we'll go right to some interesting facts which will really push your thinking. So 2 out of the 3 global powers we have, China and Russia. And if you were in the first session in the day, your questions, if you really thought, were addressed to China and Russia, more along actually Russia. And the other 6 countries, we really didn't get to talk about. There was a presentation by Tajikistan, a think tank from there. But you have 5 other countries there besides India. So our conversation was hovering around 3 countries. Out of the world's top economies, as per GDP, of course, China, India, and Russia. Out of population, you have 4 in SCO. 3 major energy producers, including Russia, Iran, and Kazakhstan. And 4 out of the 9 nuclear powers. So that's why you heard the other side of Afghanistan in using weapons of mass destruction, etc. So SCO theoretically, just if I don't, with a lot of research has been done, just by this, it becomes very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Geographically, that's a bit of a visual, you know. World's population, just to give you an idea of the world's wealth. So the world's wealth is changing now from the West to our side of the world. When I say our side of the world, the map was just shown as up there. And I'm going to show you other countries in which the GDP growths are faster than Western countries. So of course, China, self-explanatory, the fastest growth in modern history in the last 20 years. They're sitting at $12 trillion. And trade with Pakistan almost nearing 14 billion. But of course, I'm not going to go into bilateral. It's heavy on China's side, not ours. Russia, 1.5 trillion. Trade, very, very low. It's not even $500 million. Pakistan, our GDP has just passed, the first time in our history, 300 billion. Not acceptable, not according to the ratio of our population growth. So if we're a member of SCO, and we're looking at these numbers, Kazakhstan, and look at Kazakhstan's population, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, and their GDPs in ratio to the population, it will show weaknesses in our internal policy framework of Pakistan. And then I've got India down there. And when we did this research, thank you very much for High Commissioner Abdul Basit, I'm going to show the mandate of SCO and all the meeting charters that were said. And when we were reviewing it as a team, our research did a fabulous job. I started pondering myself, what is India doing there? And Ambassador today shared why India actually resisted in 2005, until 14, I think he said, and then recently pushed himself for diplomacy. And why? So when you read the charter written beautifully, whoever authored it, I don't know which country, China took the lead, but it's been authored by several countries. And look what it actually says. So this is the declaration of the establishment, and I'm going to stress on these words. The SCO aims at strengthening mutual trust, friendship, good neighborliness between the member states, encouraging effective cooperation between them in political, trade, economic, scientific, technical, cultural, educational, energy, transport, environment, and other fields. So I'm like, how is that going to happen ever with India? So Ambassador shared his views on it, which I totally am synced with. It's not making sense. And then to peace, security, stability in the region, which of course Ambassador Jalani mentioned. So again, I said the thought process awesome, the mandate given excellent, the implementation is, I think, going to give you thoughts to ponder after this. First time we're having a session like this in Pakistan on SCO. And then we took out a lot of other declarations from SCO that align with this, the goals, tasks, peace, prosperity, which your Chinese friends mentioned, very nicely done, right? Harmony in the region, connectivity, hubs, highways, roads, transports. And when I read all of this, because I'm a little bit of product of the Americas, America did all of that. The American interstate highway system and the economic corridors, they don't call them that, they don't need to. They've actually made those economic corridors 4 decades ago. The knowledge base comes out of there. We're replicating that in different words these days. This is my own thoughts. Again, declarations, I'm going to skip to that and get to exactly Pakistan's mandate for the Geo-Economic. So yeah, a lot of work, and by the way, we'll be giving this to CGSS, they already have it. A lot of good research that you can read up on. I'm not going to bore you there because we only have 20 minutes for this presentation. This is very, very good information that has been pulled by our research team at the think tank. Now, SCO related to One Belt and One Road, which Ambassador Jalani also referred to, and India's opposition. So CPAC's involvement in its whole area is giving this is a symbolic, of course it's strategic, but it's also symbolic in the Chinese's vision to pull Pakistan in, and I think it was the second special in SCO to Chinese and everyone else. And our Russian counterpart also asked that you keep referring to the iron friendship with Pakistan, what about Russia? So CPAC, again I'll repeat, and we've many forms, as far as SCO is concerned, it provides, in those mandates that I can't share with you, there's a very lengthy charter framework, it touches on every single point in those charter members, from science, technology to education, etc. Now we come to Pakistan. What can we really do geo-economically? I showed you our GDP. We're not doing that well for a population of about 210, 220, 15 million. So energy, trade, investment, infrastructure to further our geopolitical objectives I've stated before, and both High Commissioner and Ambassador shared that very well. Global economic center of gravity has shifted to the vicinity of Pakistan, with peaceful development of China presenting an unprecedented geo-economic opportunity and geopolitical challenge to Pakistan. This shift makes role for Pakistan emerging markets potentially big, but unfortunately in its reality this remains small overall except for CPEC. What value do we really have joining this club? CPEC is so far the sizable regional geopolitical move involving Pakistan as the protagonist. Sharp slump in PAF-Afghan relations. We've talked about Afghanistan being an issue. Of course, they're not part of this. What we can do. So everyone has heard of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Provides institutional and organization platform for the 6 corridors of Belt and Road, and the keynotes of the passage which originate in the geographical realm of SCO. And the ambassador also mentioned there's a Silk Fund and another bank, SCO, a bank that they're going to try to think of bringing up out in the coming years. So if you really look at the connectivity of Pakistan's role right now, your foremost concentration should be on CPEC. I don't think you'd have any argument against that. As far as where we fit in, look at how many organizations, and this is, sorry, it's going to be a bit of an abbreviation, and I'm going to show the maps according to the abbreviations. We had to research how many member groups and all these different, whether it's SCO, AIB, SARC, which High Commissioner referred to, the EEU, the CSTO. What role does Pakistan have in the CSTO? We're not a member of the CSTO. ECO, but it's related to our SCO members. The OIC, of course, we are. ASEAN, CIS, and ACD. And I mentioned earlier that the world's wealth is cash plus assets is moving towards our side of the world. The sovereign wealth funds in the Middle East, of course, China's reserves, Japanese reserves, South Korean reserves, and the SCO family in relation to all those nice abbreviations I just shared with you with their titles. We are a member of the AIIB, right? SARC, Pakistan is a member, and our wonderful partner India is a member, right? EEU, out of these countries, they're part of SCO. 2 of them are in SCO. So do we have any link? Have we done any deep research into how to take advantage of SCO when applying for membership in the summer of 2017? Or getting approved, sorry. CTO, is it a mini version of NATO for the region, which alarm brands start bringing on the other side of the borders? ECO, again, look at the region where we are. And we are a part of ECO. OIC, I think self-explanatory, hasn't produced anything with empirical evidence. You can do your own research. What is OIC? I don't even know anymore. ASEAN countries, our trade is very less with them. And CIS, right? So with this now, ACD, the dialogue, but with SCO, we come back to, there was a question from the audience about the economic and trade activities that we can have with. If Pakistan is to be a hub of that connectivity, you have to fast track, and really fast track. So both CGSS and our think tank in NUST have done a lot of work on CPEC. The word special economic zone is being used as a buzzword for the last 2-3 years. I don't think anyone in the audience or anyone that can come to our think tank share with us, has any SEZ been implemented so far? You cannot get economic and trade activities if you don't have SEZs, and hence the outcome of an economic corridor. Right? So you're concentrated. What were the first CPAC deliverables, if you all recall? A road? Really? In 2018, you're cheering, spending billions of rupees and saying we built a road? So we have to get very, very serious, Pakistan. Rail, right? CPAC announcement, billions of dollars, power. What are you paying for those power bills? You guys get electricity bills at home. So if power and roads are cheerleaders for CPAC, then it should be worrisome for SCO. And SCO countries, someone asked today about the bill that was passed in Paris about the anti-terrorism case, why aren't our SCO countries helping us out? You also have to help. A saying in the Quran, Allah only helps you if you help yourself. No one's going to come help you. It's a different global era. I've talked about CPAC enough, and time running out, so I'm going to leave all these points with you because a lot of research has been done behind each bullet, which I can't explain. What I did want to get to was our framework development that we did. This is very important. And I'll ask our team to share this research with you. Pakistan's Strategic Trade Policy Framework 2015 to 18. 18 ends in June 30th, our fiscal year for the government. And how was this connected? If you really want a geo-economic footprint into SCO, 4 pillars, Ministry of Commerce has made this, of the government of Pakistan. Product sophistication and diversification, market access, institutional development, strengthening and trade facilitation. So this was leading up to our justification of SCO. Pakistan has failed on all 4. And I'll show you how. We are not competitive. We're not exporting. Our exports have fallen below $20 billion. At one time, they were about 26. I think that was our peak in 2007 or 8. Compliance, well, I'm not going to talk about what just happened in Paris. Policy environment, whether it's climate change, water, etc. Market access, your largest, still, for the last 40 years, we are exporting kapra. We're not in high value add. Kitni t-shirts, kitne moze, kitni shirts, tracksuits, और उस पे टेक्सटाइल इंडस्ट्री बड़ी खुश है. जब तक knowledge value add नहीं होएगा, और नहीं होएगा until we don't have special economic zones, till we don't have economic corridors. So SCO is a wonderful platform. So the recommendation that goes up from CGS is, I'm really, really happy with CGS. They've taken this initiative to have one on SCO. Please tell the government to prioritize this, make this a high level, not less than a ministerial body, commission, whatever. The bureaucrats know how to structure this better, but it needs to be empowered. It needs your best professionals. I just showed you those 7 other bodies that are related to SCO. I just showed you CPAC, the potential. Pakistan sitting at the hub of it. But if our policy implementation doesn't go right to the Prime Minister's office, we had CGS did a wonderful one on 2 weeks ago on cyber, and the National Security Advisor was there with the National Security Division, which is to feed up to the policy to right to the PM's office. I don't see this as less significant as that, to be quite honest. So the strategic trade policy and framework, 3 years of delivering, you haven't been able to deliver, but some of these points, whoever wrote this in the ministry did a very good job. This can be taken as a document to expand that geo-economic relationship. And again, like Ambassador Jalani said, peace and prosperity, and the number 2, he stressed on the economic as well. You will have to build that into the geo-relationship. China will stop, sorry I have to say this, but how long can China be your friend when you keep asking for money and saying China this, China that, China? They're people. They're not saints, so they're not angels. So Pakistan's government has to come up with innovative policies to enlighten yourselves first for our economic prosperity. Your economic prosperity will filter into everything else. Sorry, I'll share this because I was saddened to see this. Focused products, basmati rice, horticulture, meat and meat products, and jewelry. If there's any CEO or economist in the project, How much revenue is this going to give you? Anyone take a shot at that? Do you know how much an F-16 costs? Do you know how a Cisco, Serena में लगे Cisco routers, router नहीं लिखा हुआ ICT में, software नहीं लिखा, बासमती rice लिखी हुई है. So this was very sad. This is our strategic framework in it, right? Focus markets, Iran, China, Afghanistan, and European Union. So use these things for our own khana. We're self-sufficient in food, use it for, but we want to export these. Not a good strategy, not a good strategy. Trade agreements, we have a dozen we found when we did research for the last month. So these are all available. Each has the link to the website, which has the government policy in it. And we have copies of it, but you can also go to the web from it. And trade missions, now this is really interesting. For SCO, the mandate that was given, these were supposed to be sent out by, I don't know whether it really was a foreign office coordinating it or the Prime Minister's office, but really, really very little have been done on these trade missions, right? Double taxation agreements would be very useful, right? There's a term, it's called international trade routing or something, a wonderful concept. 50 countries have signed for it. SCO is allowed to. It has to be road transport. You can cross the border to a country without paying tax and duty. Just imagine the logistics that gets cleared up with that. Of course, clearances, approvals and stuff, the back end is very, very powerful. But in Pakistan, we've heard many a times, so why haven't we worked on ease for the businesses to allow logistics chains for the SEZs to continue under CPAC? So, because that's right tied into SCO. Now, the vision, and this is part of this framework, this is not our think tanks. So currently, if you say, okay, $300 billion is the GDP, and Pakistan takes full advantage of CPAC, BRI, SCO, and provincial divide on the output of GDP, you can be a $2 trillion economy. Myself being an optimist, I think more than 2 trillion, but this is the ministry's information, that by 2040 means still 22 years to go, you're only looking at $2 trillion. And of course, I just showed you India, which was 2.5 already. Korea, 22 million people, $1.2 trillion. Right? So as far as the geo-economic role for Pakistan in SCO, I'll make a policy statement today that I think it needs a total revamp of the strategic framework that it made from 15 to 18. It needs probably less government but more professionals involved, because it's a people to people. One of our good, there was a lady from a think tank, she asked the people to people contact, right? You don't get commerce activity generated unless you minister's office, an empowered ministerial level body, if it really wants it, to really implement what SCO's vision is. And I'll leave this information. Please do read the charter. When I read I wasn't excited about SCO. When I read the charter, I got really excited. It is wonderfully written, but it's going to be a challenge. Pakistan may have just got excited and signed up for it. I don't know if it really knows what it signed up for. So with that, thank you very much.